the pointy end. I'm Keith Sutherland. Today my guest is Rosemary Sorensen, Director of Bendigo Writers Festival. Welcome, Rosemary.
Thank you, Keith.
Now, who would have believed from the humble beginnings 5 years ago to the massive event that it is this year? I always say it gets bigger and better, and it does.
Has to get bigger and better because that way I get to talk to you every year.
And I'm so glad. And I have to start off the talking point of course, the cue of getting Julian Assange. How did that come about? It just blew me away when I first read that. That's just incredible achievement, I think. And how did you get there? How did you work through it? It just it blows me away.
It's one of those things where you have to lift your head up a little bit and go, okay, we did that this year and clearly that worked. We had Tariq Ali last year and the Alumbra was buzzing. It was great. We had a great audience for it. So we knew that there's the thirst and there's an audience for those sorts of contemporary, really big kind of discussions that people will really get engaged and excited by. We had a gourmet farmer event, which was lovely because it's all about good life, and then we had Tariq Ali. So we knew that those two things worked. So what do you do the next year to fill Alumbra? Because Alumbra Theatre is so good, and isn't it going well? I mean, again, same thing, who'd have thought? They did think, and good on Stanley Akos and the whole team for realising that it was worth doing. And I can't think of a theatre in Australia that's as thriving at the moment as Alumbra. So something good is coming out of that.
117,000 in the first 12 months. It's just incredible. Astonishing.
And we all sort of looked at it and thought, oh, good luck, you know, because theatre's hard. It's not easy to put, you know, bums on seats in theatres. They did it. So that gave us the confidence to say we can step up. But you know, I mean, it's a whole new ball game when you're getting people like Julian Assange. You've really got to try to work through what you're capable of doing, whether the audiences will come, and then how you put the event together. The reason we went with Julian Assange was, of course, the link with La Trobe University, because Rob Mann is the Ideas in Society Forum organiser, and Rob Mann's book this year, wrote a small book for one of the little, it's a long essay really, and it was called Cypherpunk Revolutionary, and it was about Julian Assange. And he, according to Rob Mann, he thinks that that Julian Assange had one of the big political ideas for the century really, which is a big call. And I read that and I thought, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I mean, everybody knows a little bit about Julian Assange. It's like everything, isn't it? We all know a little bit, and we all have an opinion. But I'd read this book and thought, oh, this is a really fine essay. And I said to Rob, let's have a session on Julian Assange. It's a good topic. Whistleblowers, control. People get very upset about the sorts of, you know, do you allow access to this information? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? All that stuff. So I said, let's have a session on Julian Assange. Who do you think should do it? And Rob very blithely said, oh, why not Julian Assange? And I said, oh, ho, 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 ho. And then I went away and thought, all right, have to try. And so then you go through all the process, finding out who to approach. There's actually an agent in Dublin.
In Dublin.
As there is.
Oh, of course.
Terrific woman to deal with. And of course, immediately it was, what do you want to do? Because everybody wants to talk to Julian Assange. So we put forward the case for Bendigo. We said what sort of city we are. We said what sort of theatre we have. We said what sort of person will be running the interview, Rob Mann. Ideally, you say, I think it was very good because I think Rob Mann had been in contact with Julian Assange to check to make sure his book, his essay.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and I believe that there was a bit of toing and froing, and that in a second edition of that, Rob Mann did incorporate some of the extra information that he'd received. So we knew there was a trust, because trust is very important in these things. And I think that in a lot of touring, I can remember many sleepless nights because you'd wait for the call to, you know, the ping to come through from the email from Dublin. And at one stage I thought, oh, it's not going to happen. Okay, that's fine. And then we stayed at it, and a couple of months later, we got the okay. And I still can't believe it, and we're still hoping to make sure that the technology works, because we are just literally working on a video
link from there. The logistics of the whole thing, though, to try and say, all right, there's a time slot, 8 to 9. on the
but it works, you see.
on the Saturday night.
It works for if you've got an office in an embassy and you haven't got a lot of appointments outside in the real world, we know he's not going to be travelling.
No, that's for sure.
I must confess that at the beginning, I said to Rob Mann, so what do you think the chances are that something will happen? You remember there was the challenge to they were saying, was it incarceration or was he there voluntarily, and all this stuff was going on. I mean, it's amazing.
It'll go on for many years, unfortunately.
And that's what Rob Mann said to me. I said, you know, do you think there's a chance that, which would be great, he could come out to Australia and we could do him live. Oh boy. It was what our whole festival this year, by the way, has a kind of a theme of creative risk. And for us, it was a creative risk. We also went through the thing that, would people approve? Because we are, part of Bendigo and we want our audience to feel confident. The arguments that were thrown up about not having him were arguments that I cannot feel convinced by, because they're usually people who say things like, he has been, they don't even say this, but I'm going to be careful because he has been accused, the business about being accused of rape, and that has not actually been charged. People who say he is a rapist, therefore you shouldn't have him. Well, of course, that would be very unfair to operate on that, because I believe that I have my own opinion about all those charges, but I believe that you cannot. That would be a very wrong thing, especially in Australia, because we don't operate like that.
Well, he's got so much to offer. I think it's an absolute coup for your committee and yourself.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's very interesting, logistics of the whole thing. And then you follow on from that, you've got Mick Thomas, used to be the front man, of course, Weddings Party and everything. So that goes till late in the night. So the whole...
Big night, we hope.
It's a huge night on that Saturday night. And obviously it goes from Friday the 12th to the 14th.
Yeah, we're starting on the Friday a bit earlier because we realised that some people, I think we've said this each year, Keith, each year we're surprised that the number of people who want to come up for a weekend out of Melbourne and out of the region. So we want to make sure that if they do head out on the Friday, there's plenty of reason, to be here. You don't want to be sort of thinking, oh, it's a bit dead. Because come Saturday morning, the street just lights up. View Street looks fantastic, as it has through all the Marilyn Monroe exhibition. It just looks so good. So we're hoping that the Friday afternoon now, so we're starting with Peter Singer, wonderful Peter Singer, wonderful Indira Naidu, and a forum on City Future, the future of Bendigo, with Carl Fender, the architect who did the extension to the art gallery. So I'm hoping that will give because remember we had Bob Brown last year and people just loved it. It was a big event, and Friday evening looked as though it had potential. So we're extending a little bit into the Friday afternoon in case people want to make a long weekend of it.
And why wouldn't they? Because this is going to fill the void that now Marilyn's moving on. All of a sudden we've got the Writers' Festival and everything else that goes on. You mentioned some of those names. You've got Peter and Renata Singer. Di Morrissey is going to talk to Fiona Parker from ABC. Now, the one that I really loved was Kerry O'Brien talking to Peter Kennedy. I'm thinking, if I was around Bendigo, wouldn't I have loved that? Yeah. And then you've got Anne Summers, Hugh Mackay, Stephanie Alexander talking to her own Margot Spalding, who loves cooking. But there's just a whole host of exceptional people and celebrities. Now, I ask you this every year, and it's an unfair question, but is there any standout sessions that... I know that you have your favourites, I have my favourites, particularly around the political part, but is there someone else that goes under the radar that I can look at that and I don't see them, but you're right involved? So is there some of those interviews like Sarah Ferguson doing the uncut version of
with
The Killing Season?
I'm very pleased about that.
But is there someone there that you see, or more than someone? There's got to be several.
Absolutely.
I look at this and I think, I want to go this, and this. Tell me about it.
People complain, not for our festival, they haven't. They don't complain with ours. But people complain that for artist festivals can be celebrity, top down. Too many celebrities, too many people like Kerry O'Brien and Sarah Ferguson.
Can't get enough in my opinion.
I don't think so either, and I know people do want to hear those people, and the festival makes a great framework for those people. What's in there as well are the sessions for people who want to write themselves. Benjamin Law, for goodness sake, I love Benjamin Law, he's such a good man. He's actually giving a full-day workshop for people on how to write memoir, because that's what the family law is about. So you could actually spend time with Benjamin Law, and that's pretty special as well. But there's a couple of sneaky ones, which I think is what you're asking, for the smaller sessions in the smaller venues, for people who are looking for something that's a bit specialist. I'll give you two examples. I'm talking to Philip Butters, who did the biography of Cj Dennis, which won the National Biography Award last year. Cj Dennis, when I read that book, I just think it's the most fabulous story. What a character, what a man, what an extraordinary history of Australia. Weirdly, he was famous because he was writing about larrikinism during the war, and it just hit a note for people. They wanted Australia to be this place where mateship was the big deal, and Cj Dennis, who was a poor, sad, terrible, I mean, he died a terrible death, he died poor, but he was fabulous. I just think...
Had a rich life.
Amazing life, and of course very local, and lived just outside Healesville for a long time with his wife. So all this stuff I didn't know about, so I thought, bring Philip Butters along for those people who just love bush poetry or just love good biography, and he's a bit unusual. The other one is Gisela Kaplan, who's written a book called Bird Minds about the cognitive ability of birds, so that when you see a magpie swooping on a bit of meat, or when you see the honey eaters fighting in your backyard Westringia, she says, here's what we now know about the way birds think. And there's such a lot of people in this area who quietly and almost guiltily adore bird life. So Gisela is like the epitome for the twitchers. So I'm really pleased. And she's talking to a woman who's actually interested in theatre. So we've actually got the theatrical side of bird life. So those sorts of really odd little things are the ones that some people who are really festival goers will look through and go, ha ha.
Well, you look at it, it's
one
just jam-packed, and there is something for everybody.
I hope so.
And the other one that I sort of took was social justice, no better person,
that's
of course, with Ken Marchingo.
With Frank Brennan.
I was going to say about Frank
Yeah.
Brennan, how lucky to get him.
Fantastic.
At the Trades Hall Council, or Trades Hall, I should say.
Yeah.
What a great venue for holding something like that. But it just goes on
Peter
and on.
Doherty. How good is that, having Peter Doherty coming up? Helen Garner, we've been trying to get Helen Garner for years because, frankly, she's, one of the best. She's really so good. And Bendigo loves her. So I'm really pleased that she's on the program too. Well,
Rosemary, as always, it's an absolute credit to yourself, to the whole committee, City of Greater Bendigo, and you've got your sponsors. And each year they keep coming back, La Trobe, and Bendigo, there's Bendigo Weekly and everybody else that's involved in it. Congratulations on an outstanding event in advance. As I said, the Julian Assange thing just blows me away, and I just know that it keeps putting Bendigo on the map and bigger and better. So congratulations to you and everybody involved. I just love it. And I just think it's so good.
Look, frankly, as we always say, it's Bendigo.